everyone, my name is Chris and welcome back to another juicy mouthful of Just the Tips, your personal guide to everything Virgin Island. Or as Rebecca would say...
Hey up, Doc, they're all right. Pop kettle on, get yourself a cuppa. We're going to chat about Virgin Island.
Let's get into it. First thing we see this episode is another intense workshop.
Oh, that was intense.
The animal workshop.
It's very, very interesting what the experts are trying to do here.
I want you just to start to feel your senses. We close our eyes and we start to feel this animal inside of us, and we let that animal go after the other person, actually letting it move and letting it out in our body.
What we saw is Tom and Dr. Danielle get very intimate very quickly.
Got very intimate,
and I think breaking down those barriers and trying to get in touch with their more intimate side is a great gateway to getting to the final act.
Yeah.
But do you think intimacy is necessary? Working on, being intimate with somebody, do you definitely need that to then get to the sex?
I don't know how I ever learned intimacy. Maybe I don't see sex as such as a big deal as obviously the islanders do. Like, it must be a huge, huge deal for them. For me, it's more like just a game, a bit like Scrabble, but without the letters.
Without the letters, no letters.
And a lot more penis.
Exactly that. Penis. Something that I noted that Tom said that I thought was interesting was he said, it doesn't matter who I go to bed with, it matters who I go to bed as. So something that really emboldens him is almost playing a character or putting himself into a different, mindset, which was something quite shocking, I thought, for one of the islanders to say when they haven't gone to bed with anyone yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the preparation for it. It's sad in one aspect, but in another aspect, it's really good. Like somebody that can sort of separate themselves, and be a different person. They're going to get the confidence from doing that. But does that mean that he's not happy with himself, that he's not happy being himself when, he seems like such a lovely, lovely guy.
Yeah.
And it's quite upsetting to see that he has to change his whole being in order to feel comfortable in a social situation.
Yeah.
But I guess that's his defense mechanism.
Or he'll just be a fabulous Dom. And
Yeah.
be able to play lots of different characters.
Yeah.
An amazing role player.
It'd be really interesting to see which of the islanders would be submissive, Dom and Switch.
Yeah.
I want to find out.
Maybe we will.
Let's
by
get a
episode
dungeon
6.
in there.
Yeah. Episode 3. Yeah.
The only person I've had sexual experience with is my right hand. I'd love to have more confidence. I'd love to be able to be intimate. Yeah, that's my goal.
So I think Jason really came out of his shell in this episode. Like, not only did he admit to everybody that he's, prone to using his right hand, but he also went into great detail about his erection.
Yes.
Yeah, which was very, very fascinating. Because usually when it comes to masturbation and things like that, people see it as quite a taboo subject. It's got a bit of a stigma about it, and not a lot of people talk about it.
I think it's something you start doing without very little education and in private, and you don't tell anybody about it. I mean, you're not really told what to do or even why you're doing it. I remember at school, my friend told me that his brother had told him what to do. And I was like, why? And my friend was like, I don't know, it's what my brother does. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it then.
It just catches on.
Obviously, I found out the point quite quickly. But what's interesting is that Jason has found, pleasure in doing that, but it's really, you almost get in a bit of a rut, or it's a very safe place to masturbate compared to going into intimacy with somebody else.
Yeah, there's two different levels, isn't it? There's obviously touching yourself and then letting somebody else touch you. I think obviously letting someone else touch you is a hell of a lot more daunting than just touching yourself. But then there's other islanders on the island that have never touched themselves and have never experienced an orgasm. So maybe that's a completely different boundary to break first before we try and break the intimacy of two people.
Totally. Growing up as well, there was all kinds of myths about masturbation.
Yes.
It would turn your hands hairy.
And infertile, I heard that one as well. I think obviously back in the day it was so taboo that people made stuff up.
Yeah.
People must have been making stuff up to scare people from touching themselves, which has obviously had an impact on the future generations. And now people aren't touching themselves or won't talk about it. There's no education around it. So I don't know if the myths are still there anymore, but what I do know is that obviously a lot of teenagers would never, ever speak to anybody about, you know, touching themselves or experiencing masturbation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely quite a stigmatized subject.
Definitely.
There was a very, very interesting food section in this episode, wasn't there?
A very interesting food section. A lot of feeding each other. A very intimate act. I feel the sex coaches are trying to think outside the box with our islanders and get them to think about intimacy in a different way.
Yeah, it was more of an oral experience than anything else with this one. They were rubbing the food all on the lips on the face, we've not got that far yet, rubbing the food everywhere, and they've been eating lots of bananas and stuff on this island.
We've seen a lot of bananas getting close-ups of bananas.
Close-ups. These people love food.
When you laugh, I know where your face is and I can slap it.
But the islanders might not have never thought that, oh, maybe this would be something that I would find arousing or something that would bring me closer to a partner. And it's kind of, again, those tiny steps that lead to a better connection and feeling more comfortable with somebody else.
Yeah.
So they were really getting into the action.
I think what the experts were trying to do here is teach the islanders that there is more to sex than just the penetration.
Totally.
Like, I know, and you probably know, that there are some people out there that go straight in for penetration.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, you'll never ever get the same experience or the same orgasm as if you were built up to that moment. So foreplay.
A lot of foreplay.
Yeah, I think using the food around the mouth is quite of an out-of-the-box way to demonstrate the foreplay. But if you think about it, if you were sat with your mate and he just started or she just started rubbing a strawberry all over your face, you'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's someone that you have some sort of interest in, sexually or romantically, you know, it's a bit more, okay, you put that strawberry on my lips.
Exactly. It's definitely showing that there's more dimensions to foreplay, more dimensions to intimacy. And I mean, I have a whole definition of citophilia here. Citophilia describes the sexual arousal around food. So it's something, it's legit. Again, the sex coaches know all about it. It's science, okay? We didn't learn it at school, but you're learning it now. And it's great for the islanders to experience something different and something that they might never touched on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a new way of experiencing foreplay. I don't think I've ever done that before. I've never fed anybody food but mine. I know what I have done before, but I don't think I'm allowed to speak of it on this channel right now. And it's obviously a less intimidating way of doing foreplay.
Yeah.
Like if we sat the islanders down and said, right, what I'm going to want you to do is hock and rub for 15 minutes, they'd feel a lot more, whoa, what's going off here? Whereas with food, it's a little bit more in disguise.
In disguise, especially kind of getting intimate with each other and maybe forming connections without realising they are.
Yeah, I think once they realise that every single thing is linked to intimacy and arousal, that's when you sort of like, oh my goodness, but they're just eating grapes. They're fine. They don't even know that they're falling in love with their partner. We got them.
But then also, on the flip side, Ben and Taylor really are just having a picnic together and nothing else is happening. And it's great to see both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I think that might be me. If food's there, I'm not going to waste no time on anyone's lips.
Yeah.
Quite a logical person. I like to think things, I like to plan for things. Probably the best example, and this is going to sound quite sad, but it's true. I've got a spreadsheet on my PC at home of just like every date I've been on. I see dating in the same way a football manager would see their team. I like to analyse things and see what I can do better.
So we have Ben, who's obviously been on dates and created his own Excel spreadsheet about each date that he's been on. How do you think that would help Ben?
Well, you know, with practice, you hope you get better at everything. And being analytical is great in lots and lots of forums.
Yep.
There's something that's telling me being so analytical and scientific about the art form of dating could be something that is getting in the way of really giving oneself and being open.
Overthinking the situation
just a little bit.
But then again, maybe if I tracked my past dating experiences, I wouldn't have been in the same position multiple times. But I do think spreadsheets just a little bit too much.
A little bit too office-based.
Yeah. But it could be helping him. He could be learning from his mistakes. Obviously, his way of dealing with this is a lot more, how do I put this?
Sometimes
professional.
Totally. And sometimes when you're dating, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to why it goes right or goes wrong. And we just have to sort of like, just accept that something's not gone right. Maybe it'd be nice to have a bloody spreadsheet sometimes to give us a formula.
But then again, I think the majority of women having their notes app.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
we
about.
have our notes app, which is just the same as a spreadsheet, but it's not a spreadsheet. So we can't really judge him on this one. I mean, if you saw what was in my notes, you would pass away. And I still carried on dating these guys after I'd written all of these terrible things about them. So I think Ben's doing a better job than me.
Good on you, Ben. So the islanders might not have had sex before, but a lot of them have been dating. And I think it's great that the experts are getting them used to rejection, because dating and rejection do go hand in hand. I mean, between the two of us, we must have thousands of
I have
bad date
a horrible
stories.
rejection story, but it was more my fault than his fault for not knowing how to deal with rejection than it was his for rejecting me, because as you say, we all experience rejection, that is dating. But one guy once said to me, meet me outside the cinema, we're gonna go and watch a film. So I stood outside the cinema waiting for my date, and I saw people walking in, and anyway, about 15 minutes passed, still wasn't there. An hour passed, still wasn't there, but I was holding on to him. I was like, he's not rejecting me. I can't deal with the rejection.
We've only missed the trailers. We'll still be here for the film.
The same people that walked in, I saw walk back out. So I stood there for 2.5 hours, the duration of a cinema film, holding on to the hope that this guy was actually going to turn up. And it was when I saw the same people walk out with their empty popcorn that I thought, no, Rebecca, that is rejection. And that was a hard pill to swallow. And I wish, I would had a bit more self-esteem and self-respect to be like, okay, this guy's 20 minutes late, I'm gone. But I didn't.
10 minutes.
I really held on there for 2.5 hours. And obviously the people coming out of the film were a bit like, oh, she's still here.
I mean, it's all about resilience, isn't it? We now know that even if one day you're outside the cinema watching people come out with empty popcorn containers, looking at this poor girl crying, is that it won't be forever, and if that wasn't the guy, there'll be somebody else. There'll be another opportunity. Well, that is all we have time for. Join us next time when our islanders will be discussing confidence, or as Rebecca would say,
Ta-ra, Doc. See you later.
bye.
Bye.